What if I told you that one podcast, one interview, and one sentence about "I'd rather pay your bills than open your doors" just exposed exactly why Nic and Olandria are breaking the internet after Love Island USA Season 7 ended? Because when you really look at this Angel Reese podcast, the way Olandria talks about Nic, the Spurs game clips, the InStyle interviews, the sisterhood questions, the Ace and Taylor comparisons, the Huda drama, all of it, you start to realize this isn't just any dating show couple. This is Nic Olandria we're talking about. Nic and Olandria, the couple people are still arguing about months after Love Island USA, dragging Ace into it, dragging Sierra, dragging Taylor, even bringing up Love Island Huda, and calling Nic a performer for supporting his girlfriend correctly.
And the wildest part? The more Olandria talks, the more that he's just performing, narrative falls apart in real time. Before we get into the Angel Reese interview, the Spurs game, and what this means for the whole Love Island Season 7 fandom, do me one tiny favor. Tap subscribe. It's free. It makes the algorithm 8% nicer than Nicolandria Nation. And if you love Love Island USA, Nic, Olandria, Ace, Taylor, Sierra, and all this dating show chaos, you're literally in the right place. All right, let's talk about what actually happened.
So let's start with the line that had everybody pausing the Angel Reese podcast and replaying it 3 times. Olandria is sitting there, calm, pretty, and deadly honest, talking about how men used to respond when she asked for basic romance and emotional effort. She's like, "I'm from the South. I believe in Southern hospitality. Open my doors, buy me flowers, be emotionally supportive. Simple things, regular human decency." And then she drops that one sentence that explains everything. "This man literally told me, I'd rather pay your bills than open your doors." Do you understand how many women watching that went, "Yep, I've met that guy before"? That's the first big contrast she sets up on this podcast. On one side, you have the money, money, money men, the ones who think you should be grateful because they might cover a bill, but emotionally they are on airplane mode. On the other side, you have Nic.
She literally says Nic has shown her that what she was asking for was never too much, that she wasn't doing the most, asking for romance and emotional support. She just asked the wrong people. This is where the Nic is performing crowd starts to crumble, by the way. Because the way she talks about him, it's not giving, "This is a PR situation for a dating show." It's giving, "I finally met someone who actually sees me and shows up." And we're just getting started, because the podcast wasn't the only place he showed that. But before we go deeper into Nic and Olandria, the Spurs game, and the InStyle interview, quick mid-video check-in. If you're still watching, you're basically part of Nicolandria Nation at this point. Hit subscribe so you don't have to search Nic and Olandria analysis every time YouTube decides to hide the tea. One tap, done, back to the drama. Now let's talk about something that fans like Allie and a lot of commentators point out constantly. Nic doesn't just include Olandria, he centers her. From the villa to now, there's been a pattern. In the Love Island USA villa, she talks about wanting to model. Nic doesn't just say, "That's cute." He immediately goes into "we're making this happen" mode. In interviews, panels, and brand content, even when the question isn't about Olandria, he finds a way to bring her up. "My girlfriend, my partner. We'll be 81 day watching this back." In day-to-day life, even the tiny things, photo booth moments, support at games, TikToks, they all show the same thing. He's comfortable putting her in the spotlight and doesn't feel threatened by it.
People keep throwing around the word performative. But here's the issue. Performers usually need an audience. Nic is not the one sprinting to the Explore page with grand dramatic gestures and captions aimed at going viral on every timeline. He's not the one doing big, cinematic, "let me perform my love for clout" moments. In fact, compared to a lot of other Love Island USA couples from Season 7, his moves are low-key. No giant staged proposals for the feed. No 3-camera setups just to say, "Will you be my girlfriend?" No constant, look at us, look at us, look at us" energy.
Instead, he's just consistent. He shows up. He supports. He adds her into his story. He talks about their future like it's real, not hypothetical. It's subtle, but it's constant. And that's exactly why some people don't know what to do with it. They're used to loud gestures and quiet reality. With Nic Olandria, it's more like quiet gestures and loud impact. But that wasn't the whole story, because while Nic is centering Olandria, Olandria is also showing exactly who she is in the way she speaks about everything, especially her friendships.
Now we need to talk about one of the most delicate parts of that Angel Reese podcast, the sisterhood question. Angel asks Olandria about her bond, that sisterhood energy, especially the way people saw her and Shelley on Love Island USA. You can feel the entire fandom lean in here, because when Shelley's name comes up, people get emotional. And instead of giving a messy, petty answer, she does something completely different. She doesn't drag, she doesn't denounce, she doesn't do the whole, oh yeah, we don't talk now and here's why thing. She takes it to a bigger, more mature place. She talks about growing up with sisters, how sisterhood has always mattered to her, how she values long-term bonds with friends back home, 10 years, 20 years, how coming into the villa, she knew she'd be there for 6 weeks and wanted family-like bonds with people there too. And when she touches on Shelley, it's respectful. It's framed as, we had a strong bond for that time, without turning it into a spectacle. The message between the lines is pretty clear. That season of life was real, that bond meant something, but her main emotional focus now is on the long-standing relationships she built before the show and the ones that still make sense for her future.
The way she pivots this conversation without being shady, without being passive-aggressive, without giving the timeline new ammo is exactly why so many people say, I could listen to Olandria speak all day. She knows how to answer an uncomfortable question without setting off a nuclear argument on the timeline. That's not easy, especially in a fandom that watches every emoji and every unfollow like it's a federal investigation. And that composure? It makes Nic's support of her make even more sense. He's not just with a pretty girl from a dating show. He's with someone who knows how to move with grace in a space that loves mess. But if you think that's where the story ends, you're wrong. Because outside the podcast, their real-life moments tell an even bigger story.
Let's jump to Nic's InStyle mini-interview. This isn't a Love Island USA reunion special. This isn't a dedicated relationship Q&A. It's Nic talking about his life, food, the villa, and what it was like being on a dating show. But even here, even when the topic isn't strictly Nic Olandria, he still finds a way to bring her in. He talks about the ups and downs in the villa, moments when he literally felt like going home, how intense the process was. And then he says something that genuinely had the fandom clutching their phones. The idea of them being in their 80s, sitting on a couch watching clips of their younger selves on television.
That's not, we'll see what happens. That's not, we're having fun for now. That's long-term language. That's, I can imagine us old and gray still laughing about this. Combine that with what Olandria says on Angel's podcast, Nic doesn't make her feel like she's in competition with him. There's no weird rivalry energy. He's not threatened by her wins, her modeling, her attention. Instead, he tells her, your dream? Okay, we're going to make that happen. You don't talk about being 80 together and helping each other reach their dreams if you're only here for a few brand deals and a dating show contract. You talk like that when you're serious.
And again, it's not loud and performative. It's small sentences that carry massive weight. But if you think it's all just words, let's go to the visuals. Because the Spurs game weekend had people analyzing outfits, drinks, and vibes like it was game tape. So then we have the Spurs game. Nic and Olandria show up, courtside vibes, doing content, looking like they walked straight out of a Pinterest board. This is where the performing conversation gets complicated again.
Because yes, they are on camera. Yes, there are TikToks. Yes, there are brand alignments involved. But the energy, it doesn't feel like strangers play acting a relationship.
You've got Olandria in dark, simple, super flattering colors, black, nudes, neutrals, that just fit her perfectly. Nic in his usual comfortable, slightly chaotic, but charming style. Them doing TikToks, visibly having a good time, not stiff or uncomfortable. Little moments where you can tell they're just vibing. Probably a little tipsy, laughing, being goofy together. That's the thing with Nic Olandria. You can see when they slip into "we're working" versus "we forgot the camera was there" mode. And at the Spurs game, it felt like both at once. Professional content, but real chemistry.
And remember, this is where some people start to get really annoyed. They see Nic and Olandria still out here getting game invites, interviews, panels, podcasts, fashion content, even as we move away from the actual Love Island USA airing dates. People go, "Why are we still talking about them? The show is over. Move on. Why is this dating show couples still in my feed?" But that's literally how pop culture and fandom works. Here's the thing some people either genuinely don't get or pretend not to get because it annoys them. When a couple hits a certain level in a dating show like Love Island USA, they stop being just contestants. They become part of stan culture. We've seen it with music artists and their fan bases, K-pop groups, hit TV shows like The Bear or Abbott Elementary, long-running reality couples who get followed for years after their season. People do not just move on in 2 weeks when they genuinely connect with a couple's story, especially one like Nic Olandria that wasn't a straightforward, predictable journey. Fans will rewatch the season, break down scenes, analyze interviews, compare what was said then versus now, see symbolism in things that probably started out random, like, say, a Shrek backpack and a chain, for example. So when people jump online in November, December, months after Love Island USA Season 7 ended, like, why are y'all still talking about Nic and Olandria, Ace, Taylor, Sierra, Huda, Nicolandria, this whole dating show? The answer is simple. Because for a lot of fans, it's not just a show. It's pop culture. It's comfort. It's entertainment. It's community. And if you're going to be loud about how over it you are, you're still talking about them. You're part of the conversation, whether you like it or not. But here's where things get a little more serious. Because with any big fan base, there's a dark side that people need to be careful with. Let's be real for a second. Supporting your faves, normal. Making edits, normal. Tweeting reactions, normal. Defending them when people say wild, unfair things, also normal to an extent. But stan culture can absolutely go left. And that's not specific to Nicolandria. That's everywhere. Big music fan bases, TV show fandoms, celebrity couples, influencer communities. Most people argue, debunk lies, bring receipts, call out hypocrisy, log off, and go eat dinner. But there's always a subset of people who have nothing to lose, and they will take it too far, digging, doxing, harassing, crossing lines that should never be crossed. So here's the warning. When you sit behind a screen dehumanizing people like Nic and Olandria, acting like they're not real humans with real lives, you never really know who's reading it and how far they are willing to go in response. That doesn't mean never criticize. It doesn't mean treat them like saints. They're human. They'll make mistakes. There will be valid conversations to have. It does mean be careful with the way you speak about them. Don't turn criticism into full-on dehumanization. Don't act like there aren't real-world consequences for how far online harassment can go.
You can not like a couple. You can prefer Ace and his path. You can be more invested in Taylor or Sierra or someone else from Love Island USA Season 7. You can feel a way about the Love Island Huda situation. All of that is fine. But attacking people as if they're not real? That never ends well. And at the end of the day, if you truly hate everything about this dating show and these people, you could also just scroll. Wild concept, I know. So when you put everything together, the Angel Reese podcast, the I'd rather pay your bills than open your doors story, the way Nicole emotionally shows up, the sisterhood answers, the interviews, the Spurs game, the interviews about being 80 and rewatching clips, you get a pretty clear picture of why Nicolandria has such a tight grip on the timeline. It's not because they're perfect. It's not because everyone agrees about them. It's not because there's no drama around them.
It's because they show a version of partnership where emotional support actually matters as much as money. They move in ways that feel more real than loud, staged social media moments. They've built a fandom that sees parts of themselves in their relationship. The slow burn, the doubt, the second chances, the I didn't know this was possible until it happened feeling. They're still evolving in front of us through podcasts, games, panels, interviews, and everyday content. And whether you're Team Nic Olandria, Team Ace, and whoever he's with, Team Taylor, Team Sierra, or you're just here because you can't look away from the Love Island USA Season 7 ecosystem, you can't deny they've made an impact.
They are exactly what people want from a dating show couple. History, growth, mess, redemption, future. Now the question is, how long does this last? Do they make it to that 80 years old watching our clips back moment Nick talked about? Or does this become one of those iconic but short eras we look back on like, man, that was a time? Time will tell. But one thing is sure. For now, Nic Olandria is very much alive in pop culture. And pretending otherwise won't change the fact that Nic and Olandria are still booked, still loved, and still very much in the center of the Love Island USA conversation.
If you made it this far, first of all, you're a real one. Before you go, tap subscribe. Don't be that person who watches 20-minute deep dives about Nic and Olandria, Ace, Love Island, Taylor, Sierra, and all this dating show drama, and then forgets the one free thing that actually helps the channel. Hit it, and I'll keep bringing you more Nic Olandria breakdowns, Love Island USA updates, and all the fandom tea you secretly love. I'll see you in the next video.